Hi class, it's Bill back with another video in our series on designing a database. First video we talked about some basic things to keep in mind and we talked about normalization, introduced the problem. Second video we started in and pulled out the offices out of the sample data. So we're going to go back and continue that effort that we were doing just then. Let's continue with back to our Word document and let's see what our next problem is going to be. Now here we said committees needed some work, so let's see what we can do with that. If you think about it, what we have here is a very similar problem to what we had in the office. We see that these things are repeated, so we don't like the fact that we see repeated data, annual party, annual party. We don't like the fact that we see these offices or these dates because that's two things in one cell, even at this case where there's only not a repeated piece of data. So we have several problems like that. But let's think about the relationship between member and committee and see if we can understand what we're going to do with that. Can one member hold multiple committee memberships, again, add over time? Can one person be in multiple committees over time? Well, sure. We already have examples right here where a person's in 2 committees, right? So we know that's true. Can one committee have more than one member in it? Sure, of course. Most committees are going to have several people. Again, we have examples. Here's the annual party. Here's another person on the annual party. So once again, we have a many-to-many relationship. So it should not be a surprise to you that what we're going to do here is extremely similar to what we do here. So let me first pull out the committee to get us started, and then we will jump in and fill in that data. Okay, so we have a table for committee, and of course we know we can pull out some of those committee names, academics, and then recruitment. All right, so those are the 3 committees that we so far know about. There might be more some other day. So this is going to be the committee name. And now, again, do we use that as a primary key or do we generate a separate ID for it? I think we probably separate an ID. Why? Some of these committee names might get really long, like, Committee on Investigating Free Lunches for Children. I don't know. So we probably want to pull out our own. Again, there's no rule that says they have to start with 1, right? We may well want something completely different. But that's fine for now. We've pulled out the committees. But we've also realized that this is going to be a many-to-many relationship. So once again, we need a linking table. So let me set that up. So here we have the start of our committee member table. This is going to be a linking table. So therefore, we are going to pull over the member ID and we're going to pull over the committee ID. And you notice how natural the name was? We have a committee table, we have a member table, here we have a committee member table. That actually kind of rolls off the tongue just fine. So now we have to record this, and then once again, this date that the person joined the committee, is that a date that's associated specifically with the person's row? No. Is it associated with the committee's row? No. This is actually an attribute of the person's participation in the committee, which is memorialized here in committee member. So once again here, what we need is another column, and that's going to be the date joined column. So now all I have to do is transfer all of this data out and put it into here. So let's read it. Member number 1, let me again get rid of this so it doesn't bother us. Member number 1 is on committee number 1 and joined it on 08/01/2015. Okay, member number 2 is on recruitment committee. That's committee number 2. Joined it on 9/12/2015. But member number 2 is also on committee number annual party. That's committee number 3 and joined that on 1/12/2016. Member number 3, you see how we're doing this now, was on committee number 1, 10/05/2015. And now we're moving down the page, so let me get it back here. Member number 3 is also on committee number 3 and joined it on 1/01/05/2016. So we're just going to continue filling out this data just like that. Here's committee member number 4, recruitment, etc. So let me just fill this out. One of the things we want to realize is we only are making entries where the data was provided, right? So all of these things were provided, but if a particular person wasn't on some other committee, it's not like we make a row and put nothing here. We just don't add a row, right? If there's no participation, there's no row. And in this case, Marty Montoya, member number 5, not in the table at all because Marty's not on any committees, right? So here we can again get rid of this entire thing. And again, pay attention that linking tables are important because they record or memorialize the participation of that person on that committee and they joined it on that date. Linking table data is super critical because that's where the joining is going to come, right? When you join committee to member, that's what you need to be able to do is use the linking table, and that has to have the data. It's not the structure or schema of the table that matters, it's the data in it. Probably here again as a linking table, we're probably going to make these by default a composite primary key because that's sort of what we do as a default, right, as our default stance. So now we have taken care of the committee problem and we eliminated that whole thing from our original table. So our table is shrinking down and looking much better. But we have one big problem still to solve, and that is the member dues business, right? So that's going to be picked up in the next video. So continue watching there, and let's finish up this sample problem and get to a state where we think we're in a pretty good place to actually start drawing out the EER.